The studio lights gleamed brighter than usual that morning. There was a chill in the air unusual, for a place always heated by opinions, applause, and conflict. It was supposed to be a typical taping of The View. Hot topics, headlines, laughter, and shade. But no one expected what happened next. Joy Behar leaned in first, chuckling. "You know," she said, gesturing broadly, "some people still think Jesus is coming back in a bathrobe and sandals, like a divine hippie or something." The audience laughed. Sonny Hostin smirked but said nothing. Whoopi Goldberg tilted her head, as if waiting for the punchline. And Navarro added, "Yeah, and somehow he'll skip world peace and show up in a TV series." The crowd burst into more laughter. That's when Jonathan Roumie walked in. The energy shifted. Subtly, at first. He was scheduled for the second segment of promotional appearance, for The Chosen. But what happened instead felt like a live exorcism of tension, belief, and a deeper reckoning. As he took his seat, he nodded respectfully. "Good morning," he said, soft-spoken, grounded, but his eyes carried the weight of something larger. Whoopi smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Jonathan, welcome. You're playing Jesus. Quite the gig." Another laugh from the audience. Jonathan folded his hands. "It's not a gig to me," he said simply. The air got tighter. Joy leaned in again. "So tell us, how seriously do you take playing the Son of God?" That's when it began. He didn't flinch. "I take him seriously. Which is why I have to ask why is mocking him." Still entertainment. Silence. A flicker of confusion. A shift in posture. "What do you mean, Sonny?" asked, tilting her head. Jonathan looked across the panel. "This morning, before I walked out, I heard what was said." He glanced at Joy, the bathrobe comment. Then Anna, the divine hippie joke. Then back at Whoopi, and the laughter. No one moved. Jonathan's tone never rose. But it was firm. "I'm not here to promote a show today. Not really. I'm here because millions of people believe in Jesus. Not as a myth, not as a punchline, but as a living hope." The silence from the panel turned heavy. Cameras kept rolling. "I'm an actor," he continued. "But I'm also a man of faith. And when I see a room full of people laugh at the mention of Jesus Christ, I wonder, would we laugh the same way if it were Moses, Muhammad, Buddha?" The audience was dead quiet. Joy's smirk had vanished. Whoopi leaned forward slowly. "We joke about a lot of things on this show, Jonathan. That's kind of what we do. And I get that," he said. "But when faith becomes a target, especially Christianity, it's always open season. And it's not about humor anymore. It's about disrespect." Sonny tried to interject. "But don't you think people are just trying to cope? The world's on fire. People laugh to deal with pain." Jonathan nodded. "Yes, laughter heals. But not when it comes at the expense of someone else's faith. Especially when that faith has carried them through pain." And Navarro finally spoke. "But isn't The Chosen a bit, well, dramatized? Don't you think portraying Jesus on a screen already opens him up to interpretation and criticism?" He looked at her calmly. "Interpretation, maybe. But ridicule? No." Pause. Jonathan's voice softened, but every word struck like a bell. "If Jesus walked into this studio today, would we still be laughing?" That question hung in the air. No applause. No reaction. Just the sound of breathing, and the hum of live television tension. And in that silence, everything shifted. Because Jonathan Roumie wasn't there as a celebrity. He was there as a mirror. And what he reflected back at them was uncomfortable. The studio, for once, had nothing clever to say. And that, was just the beginning. Whoopi broke the silence first. "You're passionate, Jonathan. I respect that. But don't you think this is a bit dramatic?" Jonathan turned toward her, unfazed. "Maybe. But so was the cross." A few gasps rippled through the audience. Sonny blinked. Joy glanced down. Anna leaned back slightly. He wasn't playing a role anymore. He was living his conviction raw, unapologetic, and unshaken. Joy scoffed lightly, reaching for her coffee mug. "Look, I'm Catholic. I grew up with Jesus on my wall. But we're in the 21st century. We joke, we evolve. It's not personal." "It may not be personal to you," Jonathan replied, "but it's personal to him." Whoopi exhaled slowly. "Are you saying we can't joke about religion at all?" "I'm saying there's a difference between satire and scorn." He leaned forward. "Now, not aggressively but intentionally. And what happened before I walked on set, it wasn't clever satire. It was mockery. There's a difference." The crowd murmured. Anna's voice cut in, trying to soften the moment. "Jonathan, don't you think Christians, especially in this country, are far from persecuted. He paused, nodding slowly. You're right. We're not in hiding. We're not being hunted in the streets. But persecution doesn't always come with blood. Comes with erasure, with ridicule, with being told we can believe privately, but not speak publicly, not stand up, not push back. He turned slightly, eyes scanning the panel. You see, what makes this moment so painful isn't that you said something offensive. It's that you didn't think it was. Joy shifted in her chair. Okay, but hang on, she said, her tone more defensive now. You're walking into our house and lecturing us on what we can say. He nodded once, calmly. Yes, because sometimes someone needs to walk into the temple, and flip the tables. That landed hard. Whoopi stared at him, searching for a crack, a weakness. She found none. Let me ask you something, Jonathan, she said, voice cooler now. Do you believe everyone should follow Jesus? I believe everyone should know the truth about him. What they do with that truth, that's their choice. Sonny leaned in. But what about people of other faiths? Or no faith at all? Don't they deserve the same respect you're asking for? Yes, he said instantly. Absolutely. Which is why I would never sit on a stage and mock their beliefs for laughs. There was power in the stillness of his answers. Not aggression. Not performance. Just conviction. Do you know how many people write me letters? He continued, saying, they saw The Chosen and cried. Not because it was a good show, but because for the first time they felt seen by God. He held up 2 fingers. I read one this morning. A former addict. Said he was on the verge of suicide. Turned on the show by accident. Ended up on his knees. His voice trembled slightly. Do you think he would laugh at Jesus in a bathrobe? Anna stayed quiet. The audience didn't clap. Not yet. They were listening. Joy crossed her arms. So what now, Jonathan? You want an apology? He shook his head. I want accountability. She arched a brow. From us. From all of us. He said. Because what we normalize on platforms like this, it trickles down. Kids hear it. Culture absorbs it. Faith erodes. One punchline at a time. Whoopi leaned back. You know what I think? She said after a pause. I think you're brave, but I also think you're making this bigger than it needs to be. His response was immediate. It's already bigger than any of us. He looked to the audience now, speaking to the unseen millions watching beyond the cameras. This isn't about a TV show or a panel of opinionated voices. It's about what we stand for, what we tolerate, what we mock. He gestured gently toward the hosts. You don't have to believe what I believe. But if we can't even respect what others believe, then what are we building here? A society where truth depends on ratings. Silence again, then a voice from the audience. Quiet but clear. God bless you. Jonathan turned toward the voice. Just a flicker of acknowledgement. It broke the spell. The audience uncertain began to clap. Slowly, unevenly. Some hosts glanced at each other, unsure how to proceed. Joy tried to steer things back. Well, we were going to talk about your next season, but Jonathan held up his hand gently. I think we just did. That landed again. Harder this time. No script. No filter. No filter. Just a man who refused to play along. A man who carried something older, deeper, and more dangerous than celebrity. Truth. And in that moment, it didn't matter how many camera angles they had. The real show had already begun. 1 man. 4 women. 1 uncomfortable question. What happens when you mock the sacred? And the sacred walks in. The applause faded. But the tension remained. Not the typical daytime TV. Tension the kind engineered for ratings, applause, signs, or viral moments. This was different. This was spiritual. Whoopi's voice returned, edged with an attempt at control. You came here as a guest, Jonathan, but this feels more like a sermon. Jonathan didn't flinch. I didn't come to preach, he said. I came to respond, Joy snapped. Respond to what? A joke. You act like we burned a Bible on air. He looked straight at her. You don't need fire to destroy something sacred. Sometimes all it takes is laughter, and silence. Joy stiffened. Anna spoke next, trying again to de-escalate. Look, we've all said things that didn't land right. But we also have to allow space for comedy. Not everything is meant to offend. Jonathan nodded slowly. And yet, when it does offend, especially when it offends millions, don't we owe them more than a shrug? Sunny crossed her arms. So what exactly do you want from us? He paused, took a breath. Humility. They weren't expecting that. No demand, no condemnation. Just a quiet, disarming word. You see, the moment we believe we're above reflection, he continued, we stop growing. And if we can't look at ourselves and say, maybe that wasn't okay, then we're not brave, we're arrogant. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. You're saying we're arrogant? I'm saying we all have blind spots, myself included. He looked around the table. But right now, you're sitting at one of the most influential tables in the country. Millions of people watch you, trust you. I'm just asking, what are we teaching them when we mock the very things that give others life? Silence again. Then, for the first time, Whoopi didn't have a retort. Her eyes narrowed not with malice, but contemplation. Joy leaned back, almost dismissively. Well, I still think people are too sensitive. Jonathan looked at her gently. Do you think Jesus was too sensitive? When they drove nails into his hands, Joy froze. That one line pierced through the fog. The audience gasped, and for a beat, it felt like the studio wasn't a studio anymore, but a courtroom of conscience. Anna tried to pivot. But don't you think it's dangerous dying faith to everything? We're living in a time where religion gets weaponized. People use it to divide, to control. Jonathan's face changed, subtle sorrow overtaking resolve. I agree, he said. Religion can divide, but Jesus never did. They were listening. Again, he continued. When people weaponize his name, they're not following him, they're using him. Jesus didn't condemn the broken. He sat with them, loved them, died for them. He looked around slowly. What did he ever do that was worthy of mockery? No one answered, not because they couldn't, but because they suddenly realized. Maybe they never thought about it that way. Jonathan leaned forward again. You think I'm here defending a character? I'm not. I'm defending a person. Someone I've come to know deeply personally. And when I hear laughter at his expense, I don't hear a joke. I hear rejection. His voice cracked just slightly, and it hurts. That vulnerability cut through everything. It wasn't self-righteousness. It was pain. Real, honest, human. For a moment, the lights felt too bright. The cameras too intrusive. The makeup and production too artificial. Because something holy had entered the room. Joy looked shaken. Not furious, just exposed. Sunny lowered her gaze. Anna tapped her pen. Nervous energy. And Whoopi. She leaned back and simply asked, what do you want us to do now? Jonathan looked at her. His answer was simple. Say nothing for a moment. Just sit with it. So they did. For the first time in recent memory, the view fell silent. Intentionally. No commentary, no jokes. No dismissals. Just silence. And in that stillness, something began to break. Not the show, not the format, but the wall. The wall that separates faith from culture, reverence from ratings, belief from broadcast. Jonathan Roumie didn't break the silence. He let it breathe. Then finally, he whispered, almost like a prayer. Jesus isn't a punchline, he's a lifeline. And those words didn't echo. They landed and stayed. Like a challenge, like a truth, like a seed ready to grow. The silence ended not with applause, but with a sigh. A deep collective exhale. Like a studio releasing years of assumptions in a single breath. Whoopi cleared her throat, her voice lower than before. Jonathan, I don't agree with everything you've said, but I'll admit I've never seen someone sit in that chair and speak with this kind of conviction. Not without shouting, not without judgment. Jonathan nodded, respectful. Thank you for hearing me. Joy looked off camera, then back. Something had shifted in her, uncertain, uneasy. She didn't speak. For once, Joy Behar didn't have a comeback. Anna finally leaned forward, her tone measured. You know, when this segment started, I was prepared to roll my eyes. I thought, here comes another celebrity using a role to push religion. But now, I don't know. Jonathan waited. Anna continued. Now I'm wondering if maybe we've been too casual about all of this, about God. Jonathan didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply said, we all forget sometimes. Sunny's voice was quiet. I grew up Catholic too, but I drifted, I guess. I never really stopped believing. Just stopped feeling anything. She looked at him. But something you said, that part about Jesus not condemning the broken, that hit me. Jonathan met her gaze. Because it's true. Then, for the first time, he looked directly into the camera. To everyone watching, this isn't about being right. It's about being real. A pause. I don't care if you've never stepped inside a church, or if you've left one, wounded. I'm not here to convert you. I'm here to tell you. Jesus isn't distant. He's not angry. He's not disappointed in you. He's waiting. The control room let the camera stay on him longer than usual. No cuts, no interruptions. Just presence. Real. Undeniable. Back at the table, Whoopi folded her hands. A rare gesture. Humble. Thoughtful. She looked up. You said something earlier. About the sacred. About how we treat it. Jonathan turned toward her. She sighed. I think maybe we've lost that. He nodded. We can find it again. Then Whoopi did something unexpected. She looked into the camera and said, if we hurt anyone with our words earlier, if we mocked what's sacred to you, we hear you. I hear you. The audience murmured. It wasn't a full apology, but it was. Real. A crack in the armor. Jonathan stood slowly. Not in protest, in peace. I wasn't here today to attack, he said. Just to remind that reverence still matters. That faith still deserves space. Even on stages like this. Joy remained quiet. But her eyes followed him as he stepped back. There was no music to end the segment, no scripted transition, just a lingering stillness. And then the camera faded to commercial. But the story didn't end there. Within hours, clips from the segment exploded online. Jonathan Roumie trended across social platforms. Some called it uncomfortable. Some called it brave. Some called it the moment. The View finally got challenged. From the heart. Church leaders, youth pastors, even celebrities reposted it. Faith isn't fragile. One tweet read. But our respect for it sure is. Across dinner tables, office cubicles, and comment sections, people were asking the same thing. When did we start laughing at what we once held sacred? Later that week, Jonathan posted a short video on his Instagram. No fanfare. Just him and shaven, in a hoodie, seated by a quiet window. He looked into the lens. What happened on The View wasn't planned. I didn't go there to confront. But, when I heard what was said backstage, something rose up in me. Not anger, not ego, just grief. He paused. I'm not a perfect man, but I serve a perfect savior. And I won't stay silent when his name is reduced to a joke. The video went viral in hours. Not because it was loud, but because it was honest. 2 weeks later, Whoopi made another statement. This time, unprompted. We're all learning, she said on air. And sometimes, it takes someone unexpected to remind us that some things aren't meant to be laughed at. Some things still deserve reverence. Jonathan never returned to The View. He didn't need to, because the message stayed behind. Like a crack in the foundation of complacency, like a whisper in the noise, like a question that refused to die. What happens when faith walks into the room and refuses to bow to entertainment? He didn't change their minds, but he changed the moment. And sometimes that's enough to change everything.